Beautiful people from all out the land of social media. Jumping on to talk about triggers. That's my response to triggers right now. And I want to speak into how to identify a trigger, how to be in a trigger, and how to consciously move through a trigger and see what your inner world, your inner reality, what your inner need actually is. And I'm going to wait for a couple of people to jump on. I know it's a Saturday, so if you're here and you're alive on this live, please hashtag live present. And if you are jumping in, so hashtagging live present and dropping in a word of your current emotional state. So I had often we talk about triggers and we talk about all these different expressions and embodiment, and we communicate in posts around these different things, but we don't actually give, unless you're in workshops or retreat spaces, or even not even in those spaces, are we really authentically communicating how to move through these challenging experiences, these real experiences that bring up a lot of internal conflict, suffering, unhealthy, it's healthy or unhealthy expression depending on how you look at it. And what I feel is missing is a lot of communication about how to be real, raw, and vulnerable in your trigger so that you can find what is true. So I talk a lot about leaning into the trigger. I talk about sitting in the discomfort. I talk a lot around meeting yourself in your subconscious and in your story. Now, what does that actually look like? You know, what is that? What is leaning in? What is sitting with something? What is being in your uncomfortable experiences? And it's only after you've been doing this for a while that you even start to understand yourself enough to know, well, what is it and how do I do it with myself? Because most of us are not being taught how to meet a trigger, how to be in a trigger, and how to move through it. So I will just use my personal expression this morning. I was triggered by something that happened where I received some information from someone that's close to me, and I went into, holy fuck, I've been unkind. There's been something there that I've acted unconsciously, and I started hurting. I started hurting a lot because my unconscious behavior and my lack of presence with myself and my lack of ability to sit with myself in this moment meant that I expressed something from a place of a subconscious autopilot system. I didn't really sit. I didn't really feel in. And so an experience took place where I projected. I projected on someone, and we often, as humans, we often project onto each other, and we don't sit with ourselves. We don't allow ourselves to be with, well, what's really here for me, and what am I experiencing? What is here, and what's in my internal reality? It's not ever about the other person, but sometimes when we're coming from a place of trauma, or we're coming from a place of our autopilot, our identity, we can go into these expressions without recognizing it. And when we witness ourselves in our unconscious behavior, it's often fucking painful. And that's why people don't want to do this work, because they don't like seeing themselves. People don't like to see where they've been unconscious. They don't like to see where they've been unkind. They don't like to see where they've been manipulative. They don't like to see where they've lied. People don't like to see that about themselves because it's very, very uncomfortable. It's very, very, very uncomfortable to do that. To sit and receive someone in their fullness, in whatever expression they're in, whether they're in sadness or anger or rage or shame, whatever those lower frequency vibrational emotions and feelings are that are being expressed, what we often do is like push back. It's like, you're not allowed to be angry at me. That's your stuff. Like, deal with your own emotion, which is not true. There is a truth to it. Yes, it is your own emotion, and you are responsible for how you express that emotion. But as if you saw my grief and anger post the other day, you will know that you can express anger from love. Anger is a natural emotion to coming into greater grief and sadness and pain. And so when somebody is expressing anger, there's always a level of what's underneath the anger, you know, what's really under there. And if someone's expressing anger at you, how do you hold space and feel yourself of what's here for me? So I went into a place of someone was angry at me because of my unconscious behavior, and they have every right to be angry at me. Did I take on their emotions of their anger? No, but what I did notice was that a trigger came up inside of me around my own behavior that caused the anger. Not that I caused anyone else's emotional experience, but the truth is that when we're relating with people, we have a part to own our own behavior, and we have a part to own someone else's experience, because we're mirrors. And this idea of you're responsible for your experience and I'm responsible for mine is actually very narcissistic. It's fucking bullshit. And it happens throughout the spiritual community. And it happens, and this is the challenge with relating, is no one's willing to own themselves and own the other person at the same time. When you're relating with two people, it's like, okay, well, I see you and I see myself. And so in this experience that took place, I received some anger. And what came up for me was the trigger. And the trigger is what I want to express about. The trigger is that I started to feel really, really unkind. I started to go into a place of I haven't acted consciously. I haven't acted from love. I was in a trauma response. I didn't even realize I was in a trauma response. I was in my anxious attachment. I was fearful and I wasn't present. I wasn't in my heart. And I said a certain amount of things that made someone feel unseen, unheard, unwitnessed, you know, like all of the things that I do not actually desire in relationship and in connections. Because when you, like for me, I want everyone in my experience, every single person in my experience to feel safe, heard, respected, understood, deeper curiosity. And instead of that, instead of deeper curiosity, I projected. So a projection means basically that you believe and think that something about someone is more true than having a curiosity to ask questions of like what's really going on, or I'm sensing this and I'm feeling this, and asking a question. So this didn't take place. Anger has come at me, which is rightful for this person to feel. Everyone is allowed to feel their feelings and their emotions to their fullest, and I'm fully here to stand in my own triggers and see what's alive for me and see what's here for me. And so if anyone expresses anger at me, I don't take it on as a abuse or anything. It's like, oh, okay, wow, right, so what's here? And what was here? Like what was here was a part of me that I was unwilling to see, recognize, and experience. And had this situation not have taken place, I wouldn't have recognized it. I went into shame. I went into guilt. I went into unworthiness because I had acted unconsciously. I had acted from a survival mechanism. I had acted from my new spiritual identity, which creates this story that I should be more conscious and I know better. And I wasn't in the presence and the truth and the love at that time. And so that part of me that was in anxious child, I was acting from my child and not aware of it. I then went into self-hatred, right? So there's a level of, I can't believe I let myself act from that place. I can't believe I spoke from that place. And I went into such shame around my trauma response. Now, my trauma response, what I have just done, the trauma response, I have just made and created more trauma on top of trauma, because instead of recognizing I was in a trauma response and I was fearful and I wasn't in a good place and what did I really need, I went into self-hatred of you know better and your trauma is wrong and da-da-da-da-da, which is not healing, right? So in that moment, that was my initial reaction. My initial reaction is, you know better. you're a horrible person, you didn't act consciously, and these are microsecond moments of thought forms and a hell of a lot of emotion. And what happened in that moment, because I chose to lean in. So when these triggers come, we have a choice. Always, we have a choice. We can be triggered by anything anyone says or any external experience. In that moment, we have a choice. We can distract, deflect, project, justify, and push away what we've just heard so that we don't have to feel it, which creates further separation, distortion, and also separation in relationship. Because if you're not willing to be in what's there and alive inside of you and your authentic expression, then you're unable to meet someone in deeper love and heart space, including yourself. You can't meet yourself in deeper love because you've actually pushed it away. You pushed away all of that feeling. And so in that moment, I sat with all of my stuff and I felt, okay, when you're triggered, where is this in my body? Okay, it's in my heart. It's in my throat, my eyes, I want to cry, right? I'm like, emotionally, I feel hot. I feel terror. There was a sense of terror that came up. And it was this intensity in my body. And it, in truth, is my little girl that I was wronging for being in survival. So I'm having all of this feeling. So the first thing is to start to identify your body. What is your body telling you? Are you hot? Are you sweating? Are you tight? Are you closed? Are you like, you know, do you do this? Do you hold your body? Like, what is it that you do when you go into trauma? What is your physical response? What is your emotional response? Do you clam up? Do you close? Do you freeze? Do you go into fawn? Do you try and fix? Right? So there's a fixing that happens. And that has been mine. The anxiousness has been, I've done something wrong. I have to fix it. I have to fix this other person because otherwise they won't love me. Right? So that's my inner child. It's like, if they don't love me, I won't get my needs met and I will die. Right? This is survival programs from when we have been in this experience from the very beginning of our human life. We have a survival mechanism. Every single human being has actually been programmed with the abandonment wound. And if we didn't have the abandonment wound, we wouldn't have cried for food. We wouldn't have cried to be picked up. We wouldn't have cried when our nappies were wet. Because if we didn't have this natural mechanism to say, hey, please don't leave me, I need you, we wouldn't have our needs met. This is a program since the beginning of our breath in this life. So when we're looking at these different programs and these protective safety survival patterns, they're so intoxicating on the body. They're so intoxicating in the nervous system, and most of us have cut them off. So starting to recognize, what feels like? What do I do? And if you're someone that says, okay, I feel shame, I feel self-hatred, I feel da-da-da, I did da-da-da, and I feel all these things, what do you do then? What do you do when you identify that? Do you allow yourself to speak from up here in your head? Or do you allow yourself to actually speak it out loud and verbalize it, give it a voice? Because the thing with intimacy and vulnerability is, if you don't actually give your emotion a voice, it stays inside of you. It stays there until you're willing to, okay, I'm going to witness and give it a voice internally and move it that way. If you can express from a place of the story I've made up about myself or how I'm feeling right now, and you can express that to somebody, it no longer has power over you. The trigger and the response actually starts to dissipate. It starts to shift because you've allowed yourself to witness what your need and your authentic expression is in that moment. And you also allow someone to see you, to fully see you, and to hear you. And that is just one of the most beautiful things that I've learned in this journey so far, is being seeing people in their true authentic expression, no matter what that is, no matter what that looks like. Seeing someone raw, real, and in, I don't like this and this makes me feel X, Y, and Z. and I'm fucking angry at you because of da 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 da, or I'm terrified of letting you see me in my vulnerability because I feel weak and I feel like something will happen to me. Whatever it is, when you can hold someone and you can hold presence for someone to express these absolutely overwhelmingly terrifying expressions, and they feel held and supported just in presence, that's healing. That's true healing. It dissipates things. It shifts your energetics so quickly and so amazingly, and you come back into love. So when you're in these, like what was happening for me, it was like, well, okay, whoa, wow, I witnessed for the first time ever. I don't know how to mute. There we go. Where was I? So if you, forgot. Should have held that, anchored it in. I actually don't know where I was, and that's okay. I will come into something completely different. Is what I recognized about myself in that moment of a trigger of I've been unkind and hating on my trauma response, hating on my survival, hating on my unconscious, was that I realized in that moment for the first time ever that at that point I was hating on my little girl. I was hating on the part of me that has created strategies, created ways to have my needs met, to survive in this world, rather than asking her what she needed. I've done a lot of inner child work, and I've done a lot of looking at my fragmented parts. I've done a lot of seeing where my protective mechanisms have come out. But to see this for what it was in its fullness and its depth, that I have been so unkind to my attachment styles and to my trauma responses and to my unconsciousness, because I'm choosing consciousness, because I'm choosing truth, I'm choosing love, that anytime I'm not choosing that, and I've done this in so many degrees. I used to have this really strong program that if I wasn't in a place of love, then I was a bad person, I didn't deserve to live. So that was a program I had. So guess what? Anytime I realized I wasn't loving, which back in the time that I didn't even know how to love, that was a lot of unworthiness. That's a lot of I don't deserve to live feelings. That's a lot of creating disease and illness inside of my body. That's a lot of my cortisol levels dropping because I've been in fight, flight, freeze for too long, that my body decided that it didn't want to keep going because I kept telling myself I didn't deserve to live. And I couldn't keep going this way. Like my internal narrative literally created the destruction of my body and my experience, that I had a choice. I had a choice point where I could say, okay, I'm going to do anything to live, or I've just got to choose basically that I'm going to die because I'm not willing to change. I'm not willing to look at myself. I'm not willing to feel. And I feel like these moments are so profoundly transformative that you can quantum leap your healing in the willingness to see yourself. It dissolves, it dissipates. And I feel like if you're someone who has these extreme polarity flips, if you're someone who has such a strong desire to love, then you've probably got a strong subconscious hate program. Have you recognized it? And where does it show up? And where are you not loving that self-hatred? Where are you not loving the parts of you that are hating on yourself? So in these triggers, it's coming into, okay, I was in self-hatred. In self-hatred, what do? I recognize the part of me that feels like this. What do they need? What do they need to experience? What do they need to say? What do they need to express? What do they need to witness? You know, what do they need to witness about themselves? What part of you is hurting? What part of you does not feel seen? What part of you does not feel heard in those moments? What part of you is terrified? And the part of me in this specific experience that I'm expressing was that my little girl has lived in fear. And my little girl has lived in fear and terror most of her life, being overly anxious, overly empathic, and reading every little thing around her to keep herself safe because of the amount of early childhood trauma, because of what has taken place throughout my experience being an extrasensory being, and then also having my boundaries violated on gazillions of trillions of God knows how many times. That I have created a program where I will feel into absolutely everything, which is the anxiousness. That's the anxiousness. I have to fix this because I can feel that there's something that's not right, that there's something that's not safe. And so I will stay in this until I find safety. And instead of loving that part of me that kept me alive and kept me safe, I've made it wrong. I have made that part of me wrong and not allowed and not to be witnessed and weak and like she doesn't deserve a voice. We talk about attachment styles in relationships, and yet we don't talk about the gifts and the beauty that they are. We have to understand that we're all here with our journeys and our own expressions and our own stories, and yet we're all the same. Every single person I know has either an anxious attachment, an avoidant attachment, or they're an anxious avoidant attachment style. There's very few people that have a oh my God, I can't even think of the word, like a stable, regulated, co-regulated attachment style, what's the word? I'll just say balanced attachment style, where they can actually self-regulate, see themselves, and come into a relationship without either attaching in codependency or pushing something away. Because we've all tried to get our needs met, and whether or not we've experienced severe trauma, whether or not we've experienced or witnessed and acknowledged our level of separation, we all have it. Because we all have a feminine, we all have a masculine. And we may be playing out one and then we may end up playing out another, or we may be playing them both out simultaneously and not even recognize. But if we don't witness these programs and why they were created, we can't understand ourselves and we can't love all parts of ourselves. They're coming into self-realization. They're coming into healthy relationship. They're coming healthy attachment style. They're coming into a healthy attachment style so that you can express yourself in all elements of yourself means learning to love yourself in all expressions. It means learning to love yourself in your anxiety. It means learning to love yourself in your shame. It means learning to love yourself when you don't know what is even happening inside of you, and still being able to be seen in that and not judging it. To be witnessed in all expressions of yourself so that you can see what's really there. If you can't witness all expressions of yourself, or you can't be witnessed in it, it's because it's hiding. It doesn't want to be seen. You've judged it. You've pushed it away. You won't be able to come into a reconciliation process of wholeness, which you already are, but your mind believes that you are not based on this trauma and these perspectives, without the willingness of the witness of this in yourself. So guess what? I have something inside of me right now that I don't know what it is. Right? So I feel triggered here. There's something here in my heart space that I can feel after moving through my process. There's some level of trigger here. And it feels like, so I'm going to go through this. I'm going to do an actual expression and talk through of what it's like to on a mild degree, witness a trigger. So we have triggers all the time. Someone says something to us and we don't realize that we're triggered, but we actually take offense. And instead of witnessing it, we just go about our day and push it to the side and push it to the side and push it to the side, or go and do some exercise or breathe it out. But we don't actually look at it or witness it. We don't do self-inquiry. And so right here, inside my heart, the best way to deal with the trigger is to stop. Stop in the moment. To stop and say, sorry, I'm just triggered. I need to take a moment. Sorry, I just need to feel into my body. I just need to be with myself for a minute. I need to leave the room. I need a few days space because I'm quite triggered by this experience, and I will get back to you when I can speak to you from a place of truth. Or guess what? You can speak from the trigger. You can say, I'm really fucking triggered and I'm going to speak from the trigger, and I need you to hold space and love me in this. You can do that too. And none of it's wrong. All of it is allowing it to be seen, witnessed, and exposed and loved. So right here, I'm going to take a moment, right? I'm going to take a moment, guys, to feel into my body and breathe into my body to find out what's here. So just breathing into my heart space. Allowing my heart to open, to allow it to be witnessed. Not closing it down out of any fear or anxiety. So in my heart space right now, I sense anxiety, terror, and discomfort. What is the story that I have here in my heart right now? What is the story that's attached? What is the belief, right? What is the belief that's attached to this feeling, emotion, this energy? So when I tune into that, so I've just muscle tested, right? So muscle testing for me, I'm in a theta. I'm sort of in a theta state. I'm very used to feeling into my body and dropping in pretty quickly. And when you drop into a theta state or into an altered state of consciousness, what happens is you can go into a trigger without the really intense emotional response to the body, because you're an observer. So your identity sort of steps to the side and you're an observer of your experience. You're a zoomed out lens to what's happening inside here. So the expression I got was, I'm wrong for feeling. I'm wrong for feeling. I hate feeling. Whew. I hate myself when I feel. So after what I just expressed and shared, this belief that's coming up to be witnessed, that's what a trigger is. Something coming up to be witnessed, to be transmuted and loved every time. A trigger is an opportunity for healing. This has come up because I have just been triggered into an emotional response that I made. Well, they're good guard dogs. So what I do when I identify that is I have a choice. I have a choice in that moment that I can feel what it feels like to hate myself for feeling. I have a choice to feel and really witness and observe how much of this has affected my experience and my lack of vulnerability, my lack of femininity, my lack of being emotional in relationships, my lack of being witnessed by the people that I love, that I truly want to be seen by. And I can really allow that to bring the emotion up, and I can move it through crying, I can move it through emotion, I can move it through breath. What I can do is I can breathe it, and express it out. I can speak it out. I can speak it out and I can say it. I can say, I hate myself for feeling. And see how when I say that from a place of truth, there's an acknowledgement that there is a part of me that hates myself for feeling. And there's a charge on that. Now, I don't have to choose to hold on to this belief anymore. I can identify that it is limiting. It's not working for me. It is not something that brings me closer in relationships. It's not something that brings me closer to my heart space. And I can choose in this moment, right? This is how amazing and powerful belief work is I can use tapping, I can use breath, and I can actually go breathe into that space. I choose any invocation, intention will work to consciously release these beliefs from my body now. So I choose to consciously release these beliefs from my body now. I choose to consciously release and let go of this emotion now, right? You can be like, right? I have an autistic dog here. This is probably not a great idea. It's not my dog. And I kind of triggered him with all of my noises last night, right? I can scream it out. I can choose to feel the hatred for myself and breathe it out, express it out, get it out of my body in whatever way that feels true. And in that, I can go into what's called the next layer. This is the peeling of the onion, right? So it's never one thing. I wish it was. But we want to get to the core of why this is sticky here. Otherwise, I'm going to keep getting triggered into this same piece because I'm not going to the root cause of when and why I created this belief to begin with. So that belief, muscle testing, right? Muscle testing, that belief is gone now, right? I don't even remember what the belief was. Oh, I hate myself for feeling. No, right? So before it was a yes, I hate myself for feeling. Now, that has all been shifted, and any of those energetics that were there, I'm clearing, I'm choosing to let go of. I'm breathing out, I'm tapping, I'm screaming, I'm letting it out of my body because I'm choosing intention. Now, what's still here under that? So we tune back in, we breathe back in. What's the layer underneath? I hate myself for having emotions. When I have emotions, I'm punished. Whew. Okay, so this is, so what I can sense in my body is that I'm going back into this lifetime, early childhood. If I go, okay, subconscious brain, mind, I can self-facilitate because I've been doing this for so long. You may not be able to self-facilitate like this, and it may be a lot harder. You might need some support. You may need somebody to ask you questions, or you may have enough courage to have a pen and paper with you and write these things down as you're going. It might take you 2 hours to get through one session the first time because you're learning to feel into yourself, but it becomes microsecond moments. It's a lot quicker. You can clear things that have like riddled you for lifetimes super quickly, and any of the ripple effects that they've had off of it. So the belief underneath that was, if I have emotions, I'll be punished. Now, is this the lowest belief? No. Okay, so I am going to just consciously release that because I've already shown you the different ways you can do it. So I choose to consciously release the belief, if I have emotions, I'll be punished through all timelines, dimensions, and realities. I choose to release, clear, cleanse, purify, and reconcile that with Creator to be transmuted into the divine light of free expression, full, authentic, emotional truth, feeling, Now the light codes allows it to integrate quicker, allows the energy to come through faster. Not everyone knows light language. It just means that I can speed up the process. Now, I want to go into what's underneath this. All right, is the belief, if I have emotions, I'll be punished, cleared? Yes. Okay, so that is now clean. I don't have that belief held in my cellular memory anymore. What's underneath that? Punishment equals death, right? Now, I can feel, is there anything worse than punishment equals death? No. So for me, that is the core belief here that's holding this anxiousness in place. This anxiousness that causes fear, terror, and anxiety that I need to fix. Of course it does. Because if the core belief is punishment equals death, every time I have emotions and feelings and the things that I feel I'm going to get punished for, there's some part of me that believes I'm going to die. Of course I'm in a survival mechanism program. So going into this belief, punishment equals death, and we're going to ask, is it this life? Yes, thank goodness. I've been doing so much past life stuff that if I went into another past life, I would be here a lot longer. So asking the subconscious mind, the part of the body, the cellular memory, to go back to the point in time through my life experience, my human experience, to the point in time that I created the belief punishment equals death, to be brought up into the mind, to be seen, witnessed, and recognized for what it is. Now, some of you may be able to experience these a lot easier because you've got good sight, you've got good ability to receive information intuitive. You might go straight into a memory. Where am I? Currently, I am 4 in a bathtub. Interesting. That's really interesting. So I've gone back into a memory of being around 4 to 5, and we had a spa bath actually at our house, and it caught on fire one day, and I've gone back into this memory of the spa bath catching on fire, it was in our lounge room, and I don't remember this. I forgot all about this. There was 3, I think it was me and my stepbrother in the bath, and maybe my I don't know if my little sister was there, but I believe it was me and my stepbrother, and my stepdad was angry, and so what I'm seeing is that we were playing in the bath, and this part of the spa caught on fire, and then we were getting in trouble. And we were actually in trouble before we went into the spa. We got in trouble and we went into the spa when we weren't supposed to. And there wasn't a parent present with us. And so there's this confusion between punishment and death. So we were in trouble beforehand and we were technically being punished. And then we had a spa where it caught on fire and we thought we were going to die and get electrocuted, and we got spoken into that fire and water and is electrocution and da-da-da-da. And so my child's mind then, we got like in trouble for being in this space, has decided from the punishment, the fire, the electrocution, that punishment equals death. And there was an anxiousness that came up around this experience. And being if I got in trouble and if I did the wrong thing, I would die. And it was an interesting turn of events, right? It was from the logical mind. The logical mind can go, well, accidents happen. But what happened in my mind was I was in trouble and then I did the wrong thing. And what happened was the spark caught on fire and we nearly died. So punishment equals death is the creation of the mind's program that was created in that moment. And now that it's been witnessed, seen, and recognized, do I need to do anything else? No. Do I need to see anything else? No. It was just understanding why I'd created this belief that punishment equaled death. So now I can go, okay, I've seen it, I've witnessed it, there's nothing else to be seen. I choose to consciously release this program, this trauma, this experience from my body, that punishment equals death. Now, not everyone's going to have such full bodily expressions. Not everyone will shake. Not everyone will feel the energy move that quickly out of their body. But some people will. And some people will have intense amount of emotion. When you say, I choose or I witness, that's what happens. So now I'm feeling a lot more space in my heart space. Is there anything more to be seen? Anything else to be cleared? No. Okay. So I've just unpacked a trigger. I've unpacked an expression of something that was not even related to what I shared at the beginning of this video. It was not even in relationship. And this is what's so important about understanding triggers, is they're usually not related to the here and now. They're related to a child part of the self that has fragmented and disconnected, and it just wants to be seen. So now I'm going to go into the bringing back the parts of me that were lost. So in that moment, I've done the clearing. What do I require? What is my need for this part of me at 4 to 5 years old that made this belief, that had this experience? What does she require? What does she need? She needs to know it's safe to make mistakes. She needs to know that sometimes people will be angry at you, and that doesn't mean that you have done anything wrong. She needs to know that when you make mistakes, people can forgive you. She needs to know that when you make mistakes, I am forgiven. So that's the internal reality of what's being asked. So I'm going to ask to call in all of those beliefs, all of that energy, to really breathe that in. I didn't write them down, so I can't actually remember. It's okay. It's okay for me to make mistakes. When I make mistakes, people will forgive me. When I make mistakes, I will forgive myself. And there was something else. Making mistakes does not mean that I will be punished or die. I'm safe. Here's another one. I'm safe in my body to make mistakes. Right? So I receive things pretty quickly, but as you say those things out loud, you can breathe them in, you can feel them in, you can allow them in. You may have to sit with each one for 5 minutes. It's safe for me to make mistakes. It's safe for me to make mistakes. It's safe for me to make mistakes. And allow it to come through that way. So what I'm feeling now is the shift of energy that's been cleared and this reconciling of the energy that's come through into my body. I am in a place now where I feel quite different, and an awareness of, wow, I have actually been terrified to make mistakes because of this unseen trauma. And now, is there anything else required for me in this moment? No. So I just need to allow this energy to shift and move. It's me identifying the false belief, allowing the new belief, and unpacking it. And it will take maybe sitting in meditation or doing some journaling to let it integrate. Maybe it is actually expressing what you've moved through to somebody else and solidifying it by giving it a voice. Maybe it is just holding your heart And it's like, wow, that's really affected me my entire life, this experience that I didn't realize had such a huge impact on my nervous system, had such a huge impact on my physical field. So I hope that this long live, which was not intended to be this long, and had all the beautiful interruptions that it has had, is received with the love, the presence, the education, the wisdom, the awareness, and the help for seeing a new perspective, a new possibility, and to help you to love and witness yourself in more truth in each moment. Thank you for witnessing me. Please share your comments if you received any value from this, and have a beautiful weekend.